So you better
Indeed.
be telling
Otherwise,
us.
why would I get up in the morning?
True. To see our shiny faces, Kate. So,
Well, and also you must be going to bed very late at night because you go to the theatre an awful lot.
Well, I used to go to the theatre a lot more, and in a fringe or a comedy festival, I'd often be out every night and see in the comedy festival 3. One night I saw 4 and wrote about 4 after the one night, so that was bonkers. But no, in fact, a couple I've done digitally. I've actually listened to them. I get dozens, if not, more of messages from people about fringe shows, but I haven't been going to them all. So I've written about a few and listened to a couple on radio, which I'll talk about today, after I've spoken about Mamma Mia, the musical. Not to be confused with the movie, although it's pretty much same story, same songs, namely ABBA. And the reason it works, have you seen it?
I've seen the film.
You've seen the film, yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's same story. It doesn't have Meryl Streep, obviously. It has Elise McCann playing Donna, the mum, and she's fabulous. Terrific voice, great control, really, really warm character, etc. But let me talk about it. It's really a dust off your sequin jumpsuit and your knee-high boots and, revisit these
Super
ABBA.
Trooper.
Yes, Super Trooper's in there. Yeah,
Yes.
That's a beauty. There's a big one in there. Thank you. If you revisit the 70s and those early 80s, it's the star, really. I mean, Elise McCann is the lead character and she's the living star, but Benny Andersson and Bjorn Ulvaeus' songs are really the stars. And that, I think, is because, one, they're very poppy and singable. Even if you didn't like ABBA then, I get a feeling, I wasn't an ABBA fan, but I get the feeling that they're so lively and memorable and singable, and they tell a story. And they tell more of the story than the actual dialogue in this, Nick and Philippa. The Catherine Johnson's narrative.
We're
she's
nodding
written it.
furiously here.
Its focus on she's a former wild child, Donna, from the 70s, a feminist and now single mother, 70s feminist. And her daughter Sophie is marrying Sky, who's she's only 20, the daughter, and the mum, who's the old feminist, thinks that's a bit silly. 1, too young, 2, why get married? The wedding preparations take a rather dizzying turn when Sophie, unbeknown to her mother, has invited 3 ex-lovers of mum's from 21 years ago. Guess what that means? Mm-hmm. Who's my dad? She doesn't know which one is her dad, or even if one is. But I have to say, the lyrics, as I said, of ABBA's songs, they're about love found, love lost, life's little and big hiccups. So they actually are very well suited to musical theatre. And so when people burst into song, their narrative, their backstory is revealed through these songs, even though they're not necessarily absolutely perfectly connected to that moment. Like one talks about Paris, they're on a Greek island. But they do advance the story, whereas the dialogue can be a bit cheesy, a bit trite.
Well, I think that ABBA, personally, I found ABBA is, although it's in my DNA, regrettably, it is very cheesy, but it's more than just a jukebox musical in that sense of an excuse to trot out a whole lot of songs. And
yeah, it is a narrative. But McCann, as I said, she has fine vocal technique, I think, and Donna is the heart of this production. She shifts from cheerfully confident into sort of this tremulous anxiety and confusion. But I tell you, with the songs, she has a complete meltdown when Sam, one of the men, guess which role he fits into in relation to the dad story. She does a very funny rendition of Mamma Mia in the meltdown, and The Winner Takes It All is a very moving and impassioned version. Martin Cruz is Sam, and he has a really warm, powerful voice. But the duet of SOS, When You Hear Me Darling,
yes, it's going through my head as we speak.
With McCann, it's a real highlight, and he does a lovely version of Knowing Me, Knowing You, in which he talks about his previous divorce. So it's the thing that's interesting is that the high spot for me is the finale, the last 3 songs, which are Super Trooper, terrific trio with Donna's old girl band, but Mamma Mia, Dancing Queen and Waterloo are the finale. Not part of the story, just an add-on. And that's when people are up dancing, and that was the big bit of the show, which showed to me that it's the music and the songs that are really the hot bit of this. But it is fun.
It was a silly movie, but it was great fun. And you're right, the songs work really well, which it's kind of interesting because they went on to write musicals,
Yes.
chess and things like that. So
Yes.
it was already, the germs were already there, so to speak.
Yeah, the narrative is inside them. So that runs until December now, 10th of December. You've got plenty of time if you want to see it. Now, here's a couple of Fringe shows, one live in person and one that I listened to radio play. Zaffe, Z-A-F-F-E, Acute, is conceived by Stephanie Gajar. I'm sorry if I've pronounced that incorrectly. It's part of the Fringe. It's at the Tower Malthouse. That runs till just tomorrow. It's a really delightfully chaotic celebration of love and joy and loss and grief experienced by the show's creators, who are all artists who are part of the Middle Eastern diaspora in Australia. Now, I saw it on Sunday last, just after the war started. Israel-Gaza. So it had an added poignancy for me that they didn't mention. I think they were mostly Lebanese, Syrian. They didn't all mention, but it was supposedly set as a wedding celebration that takes place in an abandoned building in Beirut. So we were in the Tower Theatre upstairs. It's set up as a wedding feast. You're sitting at tables with flowers, and they bring you pomegranate and soda and lemon drinks, and take photos of you, and they're all laid out at the end, and they come up and chat before, take photos and show you videos of someone who's in Lebanon. There's a wonderful section where a woman I think she's in Lebanon on a screen, I think a Zoom call, is teaching us how to make tabbouleh. And then another one with a guy who's in full mask who's teaching us to belly dance. And he says there's no belly involved in belly dancing. And we're all up dancing. He said it's all hips and shoulders and hands. And it really is. Yeah.
So this is like immersive theatre, as we were talking about this
absolutely.
morning.
I was going to say, like the Hour of the Wolf, which opens next week, it's become the term immersive theatre. I call it participatory theatre, and it sounds a bit like people are treating it as though year zero, it's never happened before, but it's been going on for a long time, and not just this century, last century. I'm sure it's been going on for centuries before, where the community, people would get up and they'd be sitting on the stage or walking around. I think of Jack Hibbard's Dimboola, which was a wedding feast. That's in 69 or something, maybe 70 something. Emma a Celebrazione, which is I think that was at the old Playhouse, which was an Italian wedding feast. Anything by Brunswick Women's Theatre. And then multilingual, because there's a lot of Arabic language in this show, multilingual company Sidetrack in Sydney. I remember seeing a show where they had a family of 4 and they all spoke different languages. It was extraordinary. Wow. So that mixed language and immersive is not new, but it was fun. The traditional music is really lovely, and there's live musicians. It's worth seeing.
And you get a bit of a feed.
You get a bit of a feed. So I want to mention briefly, we've got a moment, I think, to talk about The Forever Wave, which is a radio play by Nicole Gluckstern, part of the Fringe. She's in San Francisco. I'll just tell you, it is beautifully wrought and mesmerising. It's a journey, fictional journey, mesmerising through a day in the fictional world of some decades in the future, when San Francisco has been immersed under a huge wave forever. And people live on the top of the hills.
So how do you get to that one?
That's radio. Go to the Melbourne Fringe events and look for The Forever Wave. It's $10 for the ticket, and it's an hour and a half, and it's based or inspired by Dylan Thomas's Under Milkwood. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Kate.
Just going to put a track on, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Ouvre tes yeux bleus by...
It was sung there by the very fabulous Jessica Pratt. That's by Jules Massenet. Now we're back with Kate and Nick telling us all things theatre.
Well, I've just got a couple of plugs to do, which I'd like to, if we can. The National Circus Institute of Circus Art in NICA has started a brand new work for Melbourne. It was started on Thursday the 5th and runs till Saturday the 21st of October. And, of course, Kate, we would never miss a production like that, would we?
No, we wouldn't. And they always do terrific performances. And I think, as we've talked about before, I did work there for a while.
So they have quite a strong narrative to them, do they?
They do, generally. Well, it depends who's directing it, but each student creates an act, usually a 7-minute act in their specialty, or one of 2 specialties, or both, and a director pulls it together into a narrative of some kind, whether it's a loose narrative or a literal one or a conceptual. Just something about an idea about space or movement, or and often beautiful costumes, and it's generally not immersive because it's a bit dangerous to sit underneath a trapeze.
Yes. Don't want to go there. And there's just one other thing. Will Crawford and Rocksteady Baby. Lawyer, youth worker, filmmaker and award-winning comedian Will Crawford explores his diagnosis of MS with cheeky humour in Rocksteady Baby. Selected days 14th to 22nd of October, TIC, Theatre of Improv Conspiracy in Swanston Street, 502, 37 Swanston Street. Something a bit different. Check that out.
Is that a new theatre?
Improv Conspiracy is a group that does improvisation. There's a bunch of them sort of popped up over the last sort of 10 or 15 years after the sort of theatre sports people and, Impro Melbourne and all those others. So
Got too old.
Yeah, we all got too old. I'm one of them.
You have been listening to Arts Weekly on 3MBS. Thank you to Nick Tolhurst, our fabulous producer, Kate Herbert, theatre reviewer, all of our guests, and, of course, you, dear listener, for tuning in.